I traded 2 guitars and 2 amps for this 2018 Boom Vader that kind of ran, but definitely doesn't anymore because the head gasket is blown. So we are going to do our best to fix up this bike. So there's honestly a bunch of things that are that are wrong with it. So let's get it up in the air real briefly and take a look. All right, so for starters, what is a Boom Vader? Well, if you couldn't tell by looking at it, it is a Grom clone. And rest assured, it doesn't really look like this in stock form. The headlight is aftermarket, and that's actually a pretty common Grom style aftermarket headlight too. The plastics are very obviously derived from, I believe, a first-gen Grom. The plastics are not held on really good. This whole headlight up here, this is a mess. Obviously, there's different hardware in every single hole on this thing, and a lot of them are not completely screwed in. The control switch very obviously does not fit there. The OEM assembly here is pretty scuffed. I don't know if I'm going to replace it, but I'll definitely try to make it look a little bit better and more secure. I don't think this thing actually has a legit intake. Working our way back, as is typical with a lot of machines nowadays, we have the absolute no-name carbon fiber exhaust. One thing that is a pretty redeeming quality about this bike, normally in its current state, this is probably about a $300 to $400 bike. If it were not for, one, it's got some pretty sick 7/8 bars on here. Those are awesome, legit grips. Like that's kind of a surprise to me, right? But also this stunt bar. This is actually a Grom stunt bar. That's what the guy told me anyway. I looked it up, and I do believe it is actually a Grom stunt bar because these things are derived so much from the Grom that a lot of Grom parts will just fit on it. So you may see me order a Grom plastics kit because I would be very surprised if it didn't just bolt straight up. Going on to the tires, we have Shinko white walls, which honestly, I actually kind of dig the white walls. I think it's sick, and they got plenty of tread on them, so I probably won't get rid of them. They do seem to hold air. In addition to that, the clutch is, this clutch cable is just way too long for this, and the throttle cable is not very far behind. It is also a bit long, but it does work. The clutch does not actually really actuate that lever near as far as it should. So I think there's going to need to be some adjustment there, but we'll see how that goes. I need to focus on getting it consistently running first before we can worry about riding it. Oh, and also, in case you couldn't have guessed, the wiring is kind of fucked. Like, just absolutely fucked. So we'll see how that goes. I was able... Oh, wrong door. Wrong door again. Fuck. I was able to track down a gasket kit for it, which for the most part I don't care about except for the head gasket, because I tried to start it on starting fluid because it ran really rough and it basically had to be on starting fluid, and I was like, that runs really crappy and it doesn't want to start. Well, a big puff of smoke came right out from where the head gasket is, and I'm going to compression test it real quick, but I'm pretty certain that it is fucked. So let's see. So I'm going to start by getting this panel off of here, which doesn't seem like it's going to be a tricky endeavor. How about you want to bet it's that one bolt? Alright, looking more like a Grom every second. Now I do have the carburetor here, which is, for better or worse, just 2 bolts, which is fine. A lot of the older bikes are held on by that. But what I'm really going to do is just straight up take it off of here because, what's the point? Also, one thing that's not cool is that this particular machine does not come equipped with a fuel petcock to shut off the fuel. I do not have an instruction manual. I will not be referencing an instruction manual because I doubt one exists. Quite frankly, I don't know if they even get one at the factory that they make these things. That looks like a 14. I think I'm right. Or if I'm wrong, I'm not wrong enough. Very hard to see. I think I got that lined right up. Maybe like a tad bit more. Now to the disassembly portion, which looks like it may be pretty easy. I don't know how these are supposed to come off. That is, wait, how is that coming off? Is it? Oh my gosh, it's a 10. My experience with valve train is quite literally just 1978 KZ650, and that was taking it apart, and it's still apart, so this is a learning experience. Which I guess there's nothing better to learn on than something that's already kind of fucked. Okay, well I found out how that comes off. That's actually very nice. So I think we do have to take this off. Let me get my hammer real quick. There we go. 2 small taps with the hammer. I'm sure somebody else has worked on one of these before and they're like, hey doofus, just take it apart. But like, I don't see a cam chain tensioner. I don't know what, I don't have a manual. It's a fucking Chinese bike. I don't know what I'm supposed to, like, this looks like a cam chain tensioner. That's what it looks like, but it's at such a weird angle. You know, fuck it, whatever. What's the worst that can happen? I'll just put it back. This will be a learning experience. That looks important. All right, I'll put that with the other important looking stuff. I just noticed the sticker, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. It's not going to. Please don't shift before detach the clutch and reduce the accelerograph. This gives me high hopes, fellas. Look at when I twist this, the whole fucking motor. Like the entire motor moves. Now oh god damn. In the Boom Vader's defense, the previous owner, god damn. Well, they torqued that. Literally, these were torqued more than the head studs. I mean that. But the guy that I bought this from had said that it's actually a common issue for the motor mounts to be weak, and so he drilled the hole bigger and put a bigger bolt in there. And I really don't know what all that entails. I haven't looked at it on purpose because I don't know if I really want to know. I found out that you actually do. I was thinking that, hey, there's no bolts to hold the cam in, so you just undo these bolts, take the sprocket off, and take the head off. And I'm like, no, that's probably ridiculously stupid. However, upon closer examination, that is what I have to do. But I did watch a video on the toilet about somebody rebuilding an Apollo 110. That was an immensely helpful video, and I will try to credit that guy here if I can find it again. But essentially, this is not a cam chain tensioner like I thought it was. It is a little tiny plastic roller that basically keeps the cam chain from touching. And that's all fine and dandy, but when I just willy-nilly undid this bolt, I kind of fucked myself because I'm not going down that far. So let me try to pick that back into place before I do anything else, because if I lose that in the motor, then I am going to have to take the whole fucking motor apart. Okay, I think I got it. I will make sure to check when I get the rest of the motor apart. But I think I've saved myself some undue headaches here. I'll get these loose first, and then put it right back to straight. If you're like a little tiny bit off, I don't really think it's going to matter much, but if I can avoid being a little tiny bit off, then I will very much. Okay. For the time being, that can just slide back in there. So I didn't notice this. Does it surprise me? No, but I didn't notice this. One of those was a nut, and the other one is a bolt that is not very well in there. Like you can see, it's not even seated right. So God knows how long that was like that. I'm hoping that means the valve is not burnt up, but you know, that's part of the adventure. Meant for that. Like, how did I wish I could tell you how somebody put that in there and was like, oh yeah, that'll work. Anyway, whatever. All right, here we are. Yes, and you can get it off with the fender. I'm going to try to keep this in the exact same place because I know that's where it lines up at. And this little plastic thing down here is what I was talking about. Let me get a... Fuck, I don't have a good flashlight. Hold on, let me get my impact. So, it's still hard to see. You see that little glimmer to the left of the chain? That is the thing that I unscrewed. It's just a plastic roller that separates the cam chain from touching, which is awesome. That's cool. So now I guess I just replace that gasket. This on. I'm going to try to keep my arms out of the way so people can see what I'm doing. So there we go. Just making sure that that seats. It's going to be, I suppose, tricky enough. All right. Crisscrossing, alternating pattern. The reason I'm tightening this up first is because that since there's no cam chain tensioner to loosen, this is going to be very hard to get back into place. And I am going to try to just smush this together to give me just any little millimeter. All right, that's about as tight as I feel comfortable going without this thing fucking snapping apart. So now the very likely terrible process. Come on, so close. There we go. Whew. All right. So as we can see, so that didn't take all that long, but the holes are lined up. If you actually notice, they can only go on one way. These are not equidistant holes. These two holes are actually noticeably further apart. These two are shorter distances, so you cannot put the gear on wrong in reference to the camshaft. I'm sure you can put it as wrong as you want on everything else, but all right. I guess I'll try to go. So this is how the carburetor was mounted. Was there no gasket? Oops, spilling gas. I don't think there was a gasket on the on the intake. Yeah, there's no gasket on that bitch. All right, let me get the gasket maker. I'm gonna put something there. This side. That is now tight. No one will be seated while I fucking blow this thing up. Also, the key is off right now. That's something I've noticed with this bike. The key is off. The gauge is still like, look, if I turn the key on, oh wait, fucking. So you see how it just went off? If I turn the key, it's very hard to reach. I'm sorry. If I turn the key on, that, but when you first hook it up to the jump box, it draws, which I think is why a common complaint with this bike is that the OEM battery dies because there's some sort of off-key draw to the meter. And people are saying that OEM battery sucks. I'm sure it does, but I think this is the big issue. And I'll probably make another video on that because I know a few people have these. Let's see if it's even... Oh yeah, because it's on like little... We'll put on 15. Yeah, we'll do that. See what happens. All right, full car starting. Put the choke on. Let's see if we get spark. Okay, we are getting very blue spark. That was like amazing spark actually. Now it's probably because, you know, again, this is on a car jump start setting. God, that smells like shit. Okay. Let's take her down a notch. I was getting spark, and it will fire if you throw starting fluid down the barrel. Well, I guess that will be the next episode, because I already have like 2 hours of footage to condense down. So we've confirmed that it does run now. I didn't check compression, but obviously, you know, it's a bit better than it was. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have ran. I will take apart the carb next, and we will see what is happening.